Long ago, there lived a good king named Stephen and his kind and lovely wife, Eleanor. More than anything, they longed for a child. Their wish was granted. A daughter was born, and they named her Aurora, after the light she brought into their lives. The king and queen held a great celebration in honor of their great joy. People came from far and wide, kings from neighboring kingdoms, farmers from their fields. Why, even the fairies were invited to the great feast. King Henry of a neighboring land was also in attendance with his young son, Philip. The two kings betrothed their children to one another, so that one day their two kingdoms would be joined in matrimony. The time came for the bestowing of gifts to the little princess. First were the three good fairies, who blessed Aurora with the gifts of beauty, song, and happiness. The baby princess gave a smile. Everyone was content. Well, almost everyone. The wicked fairy was furious that the king and queen had excluded her from their celebrations. However, the lack of an invitation would not stop the wicked fairy from attending. Everyone was enjoying the party when the sky grew dark. Thunder clapped, and every window in the palace shattered. Lightning struck the floor of the main hall, and there stood the wicked fairy. She smiled and told them that she also had a gift for the princess. Before her 16th birthday, she said in her sweetest voice, the princess will cut her finger on the spindle of a spinning wheel and die. The king and queen begged her not to curse their child, but the wicked fairy just laughed. Lightning struck again, and she was gone. King Stephen and Queen Eleanor were heartbroken. Their poor daughter would be dead before she turned 16. They must not let this happen. Secretly, they took her to an old castle where the wicked fairy would never think to look. No one knew where she was except for a few loyal servants. No stranger was allowed to go in, and Aurora was not allowed to go out, lest the wicked fairy find her. For extra measure, King Stephen rounded up every spinning wheel in his kingdom and had them destroyed. 16 years came and went, and the good fairy's gifts began to bloom. Aurora was indeed beautiful. Her singing was that of an angel, and though she had never left the castle, she was happy. The day of her 16th birthday arrived, and the king and queen organized a grand feast to celebrate. The wicked fairy's curse had not come to pass, and Aurora was coming home to the palace. As they prepared to leave, Aurora asked her father if she could walk through the wonderful orchard outside her castle's walls. Her father, so confident that the wicked fairy's curse was over, granted her wish. Aurora was mesmerized by the wonder of the orchard. Beautiful fruits and flowers were in full bloom, and after 16 years of waiting, she finally breathed in their fragrant air. Aurora was so happy that she began to sing. However, Aurora was not alone, for the wicked fairy's pet raven heard her song. He had watched the wicked fairy's frustration at not being able to find Aurora for all these years, and so he had searched. He flew back to his mistress to tell her that Aurora had been found. Just then, Prince Philip was passing by the orchard on his white horse. He was traveling to King Stephen's palace to meet his betrothed when he heard Aurora's song. He hid himself in the bushes so that he might see who was singing. It was love at first sight. This girl was so lovely and graceful that the prince knew he wanted to marry her, not King Stephen's daughter. He hopped onto his horse and galloped to the palace to tell his father of his wish. The sun was high in the sky, and Aurora knew that she must go back to her father so that they could go to her birthday celebration. She was making her way through the trees when Aurora came upon an old lady who was carrying the most curious contraption. "This is a spinning wheel," the old woman explained. "But look, its spindle is broken." Aurora reached to examine the broken spindle and pricked her finger on its needle. No sooner did she touch it than she fell to the ground as if dead. The old woman laughed, and with a clap of thunder she transformed into the wicked fairy. Her plan had worked. The curse had been fulfilled. The wicked fairy took hold of the princess and whisked her back to her dark fortress. Meanwhile, King Stephen had begun to worry. Aurora had not returned from the orchard, and he feared the wicked fairy might have triumphed. He returned to his palace and announced to his guests that Aurora had been lost in the orchard and may be lost forever. Prince Philip stepped forward. He had come to the feast to tell his father that he wanted to marry the girl in the orchard, not his betrothed Princess Aurora. But when he heard King Stephen's tale, he understood that the girl in the orchard was, in fact, Princess Aurora. He told King Stephen of his love for his daughter and vowed to find her. Prince Philip rode for 3 days until he reached the wicked fairy's fortress. The wicked fairy saw this solitary challenger and laughed. "Why, he's not fit to battle my fiercest beast," she exclaimed gleefully. "My bats and owls will rip him to shreds." Philip had not only a brave heart, but great skill with a sword. Though they clawed and cut him, Philip defeated his flying foes. He ran to the fortress door. The wicked fairy was furious. No army had ever defeated her bats and owls, much less one man. She raised her staff, and with another clap of thunder and lightning, she transformed herself into a giant dragon. Philip was very frightened of the dragon, but mustered his courage and attacked. The dragon hit Philip with her tail and slashed at him with her sharp talons. And, just as she was about to take a bite out of him, Philip thrust the sword into her forehead. The beast gave out a great cry and then turned into a pile of dust. Philip found Aurora inside the castle. Though the wicked fairy was undone, her curse was not. Philip called to Aurora, but she would not wake. She was dead. Philip wept for the princess he had loved. He sat next to her and told her of his love and how he would sit there until she opened her eyes, even if it took 1,000 years. As he said this, one of his tears fell on Aurora's cheek. She opened her eyes and smiled. True love had broken evil's spell. Philip and Aurora returned to the king's palace. The princess was safe at last, and the people of the kingdom rejoiced that the wicked fairy was gone forever. Aurora and Philip were married the next day, and the bells rang all over the countryside to announce that everyone would live happily ever after.